What up, K-Rugs, the sober dog, yeah, coming at ya. Video 2 of the 31 celebrities you didn't know were sober. Video 1, I did 1 through 16. This video, I'm going to finish up the other 15 of them. If you like Sober Dogs content, if you're a part of the Sober Dogs tribe, please hit that like, that subscribe, help me get more content out there, help YouTube promote the videos. I'd really appreciate it. Alright, let's get right into it. Coming in at number 17 is Russell Brand. Now, leading off with this person is great. Russell Brand is doing a ton for sobriety nowadays. Russell is the actor and comedian. He's clean off of crack, heroin, cocaine, you name it. Russell does podcasts about sobriety. Russell has Instagram account about sobriety. He's all over talking about it, trying to help people out, trying to heal them any way he can. So he's really a wonderful person in the world of recovery and sobriety. And we, just give our hats off to Russell Brand for being sober for over 16 years, I believe 17 years now. And he's just really doing his thing out there. Number 18, Blake Lively. Blake Lively is, the wife of Ryan Reynolds. Blake Lively is, beautiful actress who's in a bunch of movies. She's had parts in a lot of romantic comedies. She's had assisting parts. She's always in People magazine. Blake has said during interviews that she never did drugs, her whole life and doesn't have a desire to. So, somebody to be clean and sober doesn't mean that they used and then, quit. There can be some people who just don't use drugs, and Blake is one of them. And that's just hats off that she never even started. That's wonderful. Yeah, I wish I could have been in that position, but, unfortunately my path led a different way. But that's wonderful for Blake, and, we hope her the best. Number 19, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar, the Grammy-winning rapper, his album To Pimp a Butterfly won a ton of awards. And, he said he doesn't use drugs or alcohol at all either. He said he grew up in a household with a lot of drugs and alcohol, and watching family members abuse those drugs and alcohol really just put him off. He didn't want to end up like that. He didn't want to use it. He didn't want to have a desire for it. So he just never used it in the first place. And his career's just booming through the roof. Kendrick Lamar is Rapper of the Year, Grammys, MTV Awards. He's everywhere. So that's wonderful for Kendrick, and hope he can keep doing his thing. Number 20 is Mike Posner. Mike Posner, the musician. He has a song, "Think You're Cool About You." Mike Posner, said alcohol and drugs were really starting to affect his life when he was performing, and he said, quote, they were robbing him of enjoying his life, unquote. That is such a true statement. I thought the drugs and alcohol were making my life better, and I was going to miss out on the fun without them. But just like Mike said, the fact is, with the drugs and alcohol, I wasn't having any fun. Just like he was saying, it's blackouts and trouble and depression and misery. A couple of the fun times back in the day, yeah, sure. But, for alcoholics and addicts, we lose that fun very early on, and it becomes a necessity. So that's great that Mike is clean and sober for over 6 years now. Number 21 is Common. Common started out his career rapping, transitioned to acting. You may have seen him recently. He does a lot of the AI commercials from Microsoft. He's a huge community activist, tries to help out his hometown of Chicago. Common, awesome, just plethora of movies and music he's in. He's all over the place. Common, has been clean and sober for most of his career. And he's another one who said, drugs and alcohol really affected his creativity. So he wanted to be as clean-headed as he possibly could to make the best music, best movies he could. So that's awesome for Common. Number 22, world-famous star. You might be living under a rock if you don't know this guy's name. Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is just, everywhere. Fight Club, the Ocean's movies, Snatch. He's done movies for years. Everybody, knows him in some movie. All the girls go crazy over him. Brad Pitt's all over the place. A lot of new movies coming out lately too. He's done, I think, the Tarantino film. But Brad Pitt, he's obviously in the news too for his relationships in the past with Jennifer Aniston, and then married to Angelina Jolie. But he opened up about his struggles with alcohol and said he quit cold turkey. And he was talking about how alcohol was affecting his career, his family life, everything. And Brad Pitt's life is obviously scrutinized crazy with the media all over him. I'm sure that added to some of the stress, making him want to drink and use drugs or whatever, but mostly alcohol, he said. And for him to quit cold turkey that's hard. I wish him the best, and I hope he could stay with that without a program. Not my personal advice. I think a program is great, but hey, whatever works. So that's awesome. Number 23, Logic. If you haven't heard of Logic, Logic is a rapper. He has a lot of music out. Logic, he's done like collabs, whatever you want to call them, with a lot of famous names, a lot of different people. I believe he's worked with Kanye before. I believe Logic has worked with. Forgot who the other ones were. Off the top of my head, I'm not thinking about it. But anyway, Logic has opened up about his struggles with drugs and cigarettes. That's a big one. Cigarettes, a lot of things most people don't think about. Nicotine, obviously the whole nicotine being legal makes it a little bit different. But as a tobacco user myself, I know how hard that is to quit. Wow, is it hard. And it is a pure addiction. I mean, you don't see the people out there in the freezing cold smoking a cigarette because they want to be cold. So that's awesome for Logic to open up about that. I think more people need to talk about tobacco addiction, nicotine addiction, because it sucks. It's hard. Number 24, Matthew Perry. Probably most famous for his role on Friends. Matthew Perry's opened up about his struggles with drinking during his early career. A lot of the time, while he was on Friends, he opened up about his drinking and, prescription drug use. But Matthew Perry has been clean and sober for quite some time now. I believe sometime during the mid to end of Friends, he got sober. We don't know, I don't know an exact date for this. But Matthew Perry, that's awesome that he did, especially being, on one of the most famous shows of all time with this all-star cast, making money, all these, beautiful Hollywood people. The drugs and alcohol are all over the place. So for him to quit and stay sober, while still having a flourishing career, other movies, the whole 9 yards, the whole 10 yards movies, and a lot of other stuff. That's awesome for Matthew Perry. Number 25, controversial figure, somebody I love his music. I grew up on it. Eminem, the rapper. Eminem has done songs about drugs and alcohol. Spoke about it during his career. Has had to take time off his career. Has talked about sitting on his chair watching TV, and then waking up 3 days later. Because he took so many pills, he literally was out for 3 days. Eminem, his addiction's widely publicized. And if you listen to any of his music, you'll hear it in his music too. But he's been open lately about being sober, lately being the last 3-4 years or so. How he cleaned up for, his family's sake, for his daughter and for his life. He said it got to that point where I think most of us addicts do, where it's like, either live in misery, die, or get sober. I mean, there's only so many outcomes. That's why they say jails, institutions, and death. Most addicts are either going to end up in jail for a long time, some type of institution because they're going to go a little crazy, or die. And the fourth option, maybe you live and keep using, but that is pure misery. So hats off to Eminem, for getting clean and sober. I hope he could stay clean and sober. He talked about his addiction being a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. So, we give him, wish him the best of luck to stay clean and sober for the long run. Number 26, Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler, remember him from 300 with the 8-pack abs, all jacked up. Other movies, Law Abiding Citizen, Gerard Butler's out there. What was it, White House Down, one of those other movies he was in. But he's done a ton of stuff. Great actor. 300 star, he said he struggled with drugs and alcohol addiction, and he's been clean and sober for over 20 years now. So, his whole career that, we've known him, I think 300 was kind of his breakout role, but he was doing stuff before that with acting. So, good for Gerard Butler for 20 years clean and sober. Number 27, Kat Von D. Kat Von D, the famous tattoo artist and now reality star. She was all over the Ink Masters show, Judges, all that type of stuff. You see her, she's got tattoos all over her. She's opened up about her addictions with drugs and alcohol. And, Kat talks about it in interviews about getting clean and sober. I know, not so much now maybe because everyone's got tattoos, but, back in the day, that whole culture, the tattoo culture was kind of associated with drugs and partying and the 90s grunge scene. But, Kat's gotten clean and sober and she uses stuff like, her tattoo work to stay clean and sober. That's her passion that she found way before she got clean and sober, but her passion that now she could focus all that energy on. I think that's a great tool to help you stay clean and sober, finding your passion. I'll link to the video right up here about how to find your passion in recovery. Number 28, Chris Martin. Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay. World famous Coldplay. They got music, just tons of huge tours, huge albums. And Chris Martin, too, also has dated some pretty high profile people. I think Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Lawrence. So he's, in the celebrity gossip world, whatever. But the lead singer of Coldplay talks about, partying a lot in the early days of the band and how it really started to affect him and his career and his life. I mean, it takes a toll on your body. If you're just drinking, partying, and then you got to get up and perform and record and travel and all that. So, he quit drugs and alcohol and, said his performing is a lot better clean and sober. Number 29, Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor, probably most famous for his Star Wars. He's in Star Wars. He's a Jedi in Star Wars. And Ewan McGregor talks about how he used alcohol to cope, with acting in the early days and the struggles he had to go through to get paid, to get a job, having side jobs. And, living out there in California and Hollywood, a lot of, alcohol and partying around, and no one wants to be, the outcast, especially an up-and-comer. Someone offers you a drink, and then, 1 leads to 10, leads to 20 for us alcoholics. So, he said he came to his senses, and he's been sober ever since, and, we could just see his work. He's a great actor in a lot of movies, but definitely most famous for the Star Wars. Number 30, Kelly Preston. Kelly Preston, explains how in her past she used everything. Kelly Preston, married to John Travolta, huge star too. And she says being a mother was a huge part of her getting sober. Kelly said that, and I'm paraphrasing, being a mother really put it into perspective for her. So, that's awesome that Kelly quit, everything. As she says, she did everything that was put in front of her. And, kids came into the world for her, so that really opened up her eyes. So that's awesome for Kelly Preston. And number 31, last but not least, Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell, once again, famous actor in a ton of movies. You might have seen him in SWAT. He's in a ton of other stuff I can't think of off the top of my head. But Colin Farrell, great actor. He celebrated 10 years of sobriety last year. So I believe that's up to 11 now, if I'm not mistaken. He says he uses yoga and exercise are two huge things that he does for his sobriety. And I think that's awesome. I've tried yoga a bunch since I've gotten sober, and I think yoga's great. And exercise, a huge fan of exercise. So that's great that Colin uses both those. And he's funny too. He's been in roles like Horrible Bosses, where he's the boss's son, Bobby Pellet, and he's just a great actor. He can go from serious to, all that. So that's awesome that he's clean and sober and doing well. All right, now that's the second part of 31 Celebrities You Didn't Know Were Sober. So check out the rest of Sober Dog's content and hit that like, that subscribe. I would appreciate it. All right, see ya.